a long way to go before the literature is sorted out.
Phyllis Tanaka speaks for the biggest food companies in Canada. She doesn't buy Dr. Lustig's theories and doesn't think consumers should either.
I think it's more important that we step back and look at how do we look for ways to educate and help consumers fit sugar into a healthy dietary pattern.
But the industry sure doesn't make it easy. Look at this breakfast bar. There's sugar near the top of the ingredient list, but there's 4 more sweeteners. Would you know that chemically they're all the same? Then there's this tomato soup. Who knew it would have added sugars too? How is a consumer supposed to know that healthy old tomato soup has 3.5 teaspoons of sugar in a cup?
Well, how did you figure it out? By the nutrition facts table.
I figured that out because I've spent a lot of time recently learning about what a gram of sugar is and how to read these labels. Do you think most people know how to do that?
In the last couple of years, we engaged with Health Canada on a campaign called the Nutrition Facts Education Campaign, in large part as a commitment to help Canadians understand how to go into the grocery store and make informed choices.
But surely there is a way to warn people who might be interested in this that a cup of this soup brings you 3.5 teaspoons of sugar.
To what end, though?
Well, if they have decided that as part of their healthy diet they want to eat less sugar.
Well, let me see. Then they would use this same label.
The only information on the label is 14 grams of sugar in half a cup. Do you know what that means? You shouldn't have to be a dietitian to figure out how much added sugar you're eating, but it helps. Jacqueline Pritchard has added up all the sugar Jonathan eats in a week. It's pretty scary.
This is your week's worth of sugar intake then. So this is equal to 245 teaspoons of sugar.
That's a lot of sugar.
Worldwide, there are few industries more powerful than the processed food industry, or the sugar industry that feeds it. And yet, for all their power, we know remarkably little about how they work. Kristen Cousins is determined to change that. As a community care dentist in Colorado, she'd always been interested in sugar. But it wasn't until she unearthed a stash of documents from a sugar company that had gone out of business that she got a peek into a very secretive world.
The first folder that I pulled out opened up to a memo, the blue letterhead of the Sugar Association, and it had the word confidential underneath the letterhead. And I just looked at that and oh my God, you know, what have I found?
What she'd found was a directive from the 70s, a memo to industry executives about a newly published scientific white paper, a paper that concluded sugar was not only safe, but important.
It was clear after reading further that the Sugar Association had funded this white paper called Sugar in the Diet of Man, and they were trying to make it appear that it was an independent study.
Among the more than 1,500 pages she uncovered, there were some Canadian ones too. An account of a sugar industry meeting in the 70s in Montreal that included frank talk about heart disease.
The greatest threat to sugar consumption is in the field of nutrition, it says, more particularly in view of comments that have been recently made on the influence of sugar in atherosclerosis. So they were worried.
They were worried as far back as 1971.
What does that say to you?
They've known for a long time.
In 2003, the World Health Organization in Geneva was looking at a resolution recommending people reduce their sugar intake to just 10% of what they eat. It had broad appeal among health experts, but then the industry weighed in.
The sugar industry went to their friends in the U.S. Congress And they got these very influential congressmen to write letters and say that this is simply unacceptable. And in fact, that the U.S. would, pull its funding for the World Health Organization if this report continued.
5 months later, the recommendation quietly disappeared.
Would your association, representing the big food manufacturers in this country, would they accept an upper limit of how much sugar Canadians should be eating?
That's kind of hypothetical because
well, people are putting on the table saying this is one way to, if you want to curb the amount of sugar people are eating, this is one way to start doing that.
I think the industry actually has responded to the need for a diverse supply of foods out in the retail marketplace.
Across our portfolio of more than 650 beverages, we now offer over 180 low and no-calorie choices. And most of our
Today, even Coca-Cola, the world's largest sugar user, knows it can't ignore the health debate anymore.
We'd like people to come together on something that concerns all of us: obesity. Coca-Cola and everything.
But the bottom line hasn't changed. If you're getting sick from what you eat, it's your fault. As with tobacco, at some point it will all come down to lives and to dollars. The reckoning, warns Dr. Lustig, is coming.
Bottom line, there will be no money left by the year 2026 for anything else because diabetes will have chewed through all of the healthcare dollars. There will be no health care in 13 years here in America if we do nothing, and I'm sure Canada is right behind.